My wife is convinced that I will cheat on her because she's pregnant, and my mother backed her up because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But I found out her horrible secret. My father cheated on my mother with my stepmother. In our 7-year relationship, my wife has never met my father, stepmother, half-siblings, step-uncles, or step-grandfather. My mother convinced my wife she didn't want any of them at the wedding or have any holidays with them throughout our relationship. My wife was cheated on in the past but moved past that, or so I thought. Well, my wife and I recently found out we're having our first child, but my wife is not excited or happy at all because my mother told her that my father cheated on my mother once she got pregnant. Yes, accurate, but it was before either of my parents knew my mother was pregnant with me. My wife is convinced that I'll cheat on her because she's pregnant. Very unlikely, as she's the most amazing woman I've met and no one can hold a candle to her on looks. My mother just says I'm my father's son, which really pisses me off. But because my wife hasn't met my father, she says that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. She does trust me. She says she trusts me, but she cries every time my phone goes off. My stepmother, who I call Mama, says not to vilify my mother and be as supportive a husband to my wife as I can be. She even bought me some stuff to pamper my wife with because she deserves to be loved and pampered like the beautiful woman she is, and how pregnancy is tough on women's bodies. So besides the obvious, how can I get my wife to calm down and enjoy her pregnancy or convince her that I will not cheat on her? I love my wife. She makes me whole. There will never be anyone but her. Edit. To add, my father and stepmother owned up to what they did to me years ago. They always apologize to my mother whenever they see her because she constantly brings it up. I'm almost 30. But my mother will not stop making jabs at my father about my stepmother. I'll see what I can do about that. Edit 2. Okay. Message taken. I need to separate my wife and mother. I am currently looking for a therapist. I am going to break out a couple of face masks so my wife will be in a good mood when I talk to her. I might give her a massage, but I need to talk to her and cut contact with my mom. Update 1. 1 month later. Okay. Thank you to everyone who responded to my post. Me and my wife are grateful. And hopefully my head is firmly out of my ass. Firstly, my wife has joined an online book club with a lovely group of women who I have met. She's made friends. She's enjoying their book, most of whom are moms, so they have plenty to talk about. With permission from my boss, I changed my work hours so we could spend more time together, and we've been talking a lot. She is much happier, and she's been talking to a therapist and me about her insecurities. It's a work in progress, but that is life. Secondly, I now call my stepmother by her first name. I don't call her Mama anymore. She wasn't upset at all. My wife has met my grandfather, SM's dad, and my uncles, SM's brothers. They got along really well, especially since I got a pie to the face and they all laughed at me. Fair. I'm under the impression it was my grandfather's idea, but as long as she is happy. Her laughter is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. My mother was told therapy or no contact. I was told she wasn't going because there wasn't a goddamn thing wrong with her. Her husband and daughters are going to keep trying. My mother and wife have been out of contact since. My wife is a little upset, but because of this, she's made new friends whom, when the world is better, she can meet in person and they can dish on their husbands out of earshot. Then someone in my DMs got into my head about the paternity of my half-siblings, if they are my fathers or not. So I talked to my family about genealogy and learned where our family came from. So all his kids took tests. My sisters didn't want me to be left out. I mean, I had the test as a baby. No true surprises. 4 out of 5 kids matched. The one that didn't? Me? The one kid my dad was sure about. Several tests later, they all agreed. My dad isn't my biological father. Dad's upset. I'm upset. I haven't told my wife because I don't know how to really say it without sounding like a crazy person. And I still have emotions about the results myself. Me and my twin half-siblings could be triplets. I don't understand. I'm a little lost here. I'm overwhelmed. If anyone has anything for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'd love to ask my mother about this fun revelation, but she's not getting anything from me until she goes to therapy. My stepfather and sisters wouldn't know anything about it. So if anyone has advice, I'm open to hearing it. Update 2. 1 month after, my dad and I went through with a paternity test through a doctor. No change. And, well, I did a genealogy kit and made the results public so I could try to find my father that way, and sadly nothing yet on that front. My wife has met my whole family. It's amazing. She's talking about us renewing our vows so they could be there that time, baby and virus permitting. I do like the idea. My wife apologized to me for the hurtful things she said and the way she behaved. She even offered to have them paternity test our baby with a promise for the most boring paternity result ever, the baby being mine. I trust my wife. We're a team, and I love her. There will never be another person for me. I will take her up on her offer, but it's not because I think it will expose something. My stepfather reportedly gave my mother my paternity results. He told me she screamed, "That BTCH. I believe that is a reference to my stepmother. She claims my stepmother tampered with the results to make my mother look bad because, and I quote, that skank couldn't close her legs for a cold breeze. She left CK. Everything that moves. Things were thrown, and a lot of other things were screamed about my dad and stepmother. She is in definitely no contact with me or my wife. Her daughter, my half-sister, has been removed and is living with my stepfather's parents until her paternity results come back. My other sister is my stepsister. She's safe. Oh, and Mama has busted the evil stepmother myth for my darling wife. Their relationship is relatively new, but those two, plus my two sisters and the other two sisters, have teased starting their own book club while they wait for the baby to arrive or the world to right itself, whichever comes first. Update 2 months. My wife was with my dad's family because my mother tried breaking into our house, so my mother found out my wife was staying there and tried to do the same. When she broke into my house, I did call the police, but they let her go with a warning even after I tried to press charges. She's your mom. You don't want to do that to her. Mother busted in a living room window to be confronted by stepmother. Mother busted stepmother over the head with my grandmother's urn. Dad called the cops, but not before my grandpa punched my mother. Mother and grandpa were arrested and taken to the station before I got there. Dad and one of my brothers went with my stepmother while my sisters were consoling my wife until I got there. I immediately took my wife to her mother's house and stayed there while my uncles freed grandpa. My stepmother is recovering, but given she's not that young anymore, it may take her some time to recover fully. Dad and I are pressing charges against my mother. Every charge we can get because I'm done. Anyway, I found my biological father's family. A wife and 2 sons. I have 2 half-brothers who were very surprised I existed. My father passed suddenly 3 years ago, so all that I have is his wife and sons, and I look just like him. I'll never truly know his side of the story, but I know that. He married his wife when I was 4 years old, and his wife has no idea who my mother is. They're very nice people who can't wait for all of us to meet in person. My little sister's paternity results haven't come back yet that I know of. She's very busy these days. My wife has assured me that her and the baby are okay. I am just unbelievably angry at my mother right now.